Hello, friends, and welcome to Talking with Famous People. My name is host Eric, and I am the host of Talking with Famous People and a host of other host opportunities that I might host. Today, we're talking about the goal of the self. What is the goal of the self? Does the self have a goal? Is it the same for each self? Or do different selves have different goals? And how can any given self know the goal of said self? Now, I picked this topic because I think probably a lot of people who watch YouTube videos about cognitive functions of personality type are really trying to find an answer to that question. What's my goal as a self? How can I pursue it? How do I know when I've reached it? And what does that mean? So this question ties into another question that I made a video title about, or another live stream, which is namely the meaning of life. As normal, I would expect this live stream to get off topic fairly quickly if and when people begin to join into the chat. Now, given that it's Saturday night and getting fairly late on the East Coast, I guess it's midnight or so, I may end up not getting much of a participating audience for this live stream. And should that happen, I may shut it down after a relatively short period of time, since I feed off of things written in the chat in general to provide me ideational prompts. Good evening, Zandy, and welcome. Pleasure to see you here. What's your goal of yourself, Zandy? Do you know? Hi, Rowan Morgan. Who feels as though they have a clear understanding of the goal of their self? I think I have. Hi, and up. Greetings to you as well. I feel like I have a reasonably clear understanding of my goals as a person trying to achieve specific things in the world, I guess. But in terms of a well-defined goal of how to become differently, growth or self-development or actualization or something like that, I have a fairly, hello fields of dragonflies, I have a fairly limited capacity to describe that definitively. So we're discussing selves, goals. Naturally, soccer comes into the equation then. It is the goal of the self to become a better soccer player, score more goals. Maybe it is. If you were born a soccer playing type. Extroverted soccer, they call it. If you've got extroverted soccer in the dominant position, you're going to be a soccer playing type for sure. Now, I have introverted soccer on the back stack, so I'm not really conscious of soccer that much, but occasionally I'll find myself in a circumstance which requires me to play a little soccer, and then I can manage, Had a couple of conversations, made a couple of videos with this guy, Ernest, who is a person who lives in Los Angeles and who was an ENFP, and against whom I contrasted my own and his creative processes a bit. Put that up. I don't know how. I think it probably came out pretty entertaining, but I'm not sure. In the past, when I made videos with other NE-DOMs, I think it's very comfortable for me to maybe listen to after the fact, but it's just so much extroverted intuition that the viewing audience just kind of goes, these guys are just yammering back and forth with each other. This one, though, I think came out a little bit better. I do believe he's an ENFP, which he self-identifies that. I think he's typed himself correctly. But I suppose he's an ENFP. I'm pretty sure about that. And Field of Dragonflies says, my self-goal is to accumulate as much knowledge as I can. I have no idea, though, what I'll do with it yet. Well, what sort of knowledge do you want to accumulate is it knowledge about the self or knowledge about the world? If you have a goal of knowledge about the world, that would seem to be generally broadly attainable in a way that knowledge about the self is potentially more challenging to acquire. Kimberly, not blah blah blah. Both, huh? Well, would you feel if you had a lot, like, let's say, 4 times as much knowledge as you have now, that included in that knowledge would be the knowledge of what you want to do with it?
Your ex-wife wanted me to send you this video of her.
Dancing naked?
Yeah, look.
I bet it's not her.
You know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I can guess what it's going to be. I mean, I said, well, if you had, let's say, 4 or 5 times the amount of knowledge you currently have about yourself and the world, do you think amongst those pieces of knowledge that you would have acquired to gain that 4 or 5 times the amount of knowledge? Okay, never mind, Kim.
No, not never mind. You gotta wait until
I
show it to you.
I don't need to see it now.
Yes, you do. She's got new designs that she wants you to see.
Do you think that you'd have within that the knowledge of what to do with it, or why you want that knowledge, or how to make that? Is that knowledge actually an end in itself, or is it really a means to another end? If it's just an end in itself, then there is no answer to the question of what you'll do with it. Yeah, I get it. I knew I was going to see something like that.
I want you to see your tattoos on her legs.
Mm-hmm. Because I think that may be one of the first questions to address when wanting to understand whether or not one has an understanding of one's ultimate goal as a self is figuring out what's instrumental and what's absolute. You know, what actually gives you absolute satisfaction or a sense of fulfillment versus what gives you a sense of good utility towards attaining that is a tricky question, because it may be that the knowledge itself is its own end, that you're somebody who feels satisfied in some way by attaining it. All my goals have the same ultimate outcome: to become self-sufficient and autonomous to a degree that will allow me to pursue my creative impulses and realize a lifestyle that is sufficiently free from distraction. What's your goal once you get it? Just make stuff? I mean, I get that for sure. Fields of Dragonflies says, to better understand myself through understanding the world, not just for the sake of acquiring knowledge. Okay. So is the understanding, that's the absolute value? The increased understanding? What is understanding and how is it distinct from knowledge? Fields of Dragonflies says, hi, Kimberly.
Yo-ho. I just called her a ho on accident. I didn't even call you a ho.
And Burin Atheo says, lol.
Not at me.
And Zandy says, hi, Kim, heart, kissy face. I mean, that's the thing. I just think about it is, if understanding is the ultimate goal, that's an absolute value, that in and of itself gives you a sense of attainment, then that's your absolute goal. Fine. But do you know what that would look like to have understanding that would satisfy in that regard? Or are you operating under the assumption that the outcome exists, but you can't see it yet, or something else in between, or some other thing? Because I think that's a relevant question as well. When we try to answer the question of what we're looking for, it's definitionally impossible to say what we've found if we're still looking for it. I like to be able to focus on writing whenever the impulse arrives. There are always obligations that come first. I know it's frustrating. It's super frustrating. I'd like to be able to spend even more time making stuff and pushing hard on this kind of thing. And I end up spending the day taking care of my elderly mother. You know, I spent like 3 days a week doing that basically. And I know it's obviously the right thing to do and what I want to do on a larger level. And then I also feel like I'm betrayed myself at the end of the day somehow. Like, Eric, you failed to do anything accomplished. You failed to accomplish anything today. So Fields of Dragonfly says, no, I have no vision of what this kind of understanding will lead to. By acquiring knowledge, perhaps it's a step to more understanding. Okay. So I guess we can certainly say that we know what understanding is as a general thing because we've not understood things and then come to understand them later. So maybe there's a particular concept that you didn't get in statistics class or whatever. But after asking a bunch of questions about it, then you did understand it. Okay, now it makes sense. So we know there's a difference between understanding and not understanding. It seems to me that the desire to understand is a desire to have resolution of that sort. To say, these matters that are currently matters of questioning are matters now resolved. So perhaps it's not the answer to any particular question that we're looking for so much as it is that sense of resolution, that our uncertainties have been resolved, that our doubts about our purpose, our existence, our worth, death, whatever else have been resolved. Or a sense that there's a difference between succeeding and failing in life, that you have a certain number of years you're afforded by the fates, and that you can either waste that time or not. That there's such a thing as wasting a life. That's an interesting concept because it presumes that some lives are more well-lived than others. And everybody probably makes those presumptions based on what they feel is their absolute value. And of course, other people might have other absolute values. But it's an odd notion that a life is something one can succeed or fail at. Because, of course, a life lived is a life lived. And it's only potentially time wasted insofar as you have a criterion for what comprises worthwhile endeavor. And productivity of some sort, creating something or working on something, building something, whatever, has a gratifyingly concrete sense of satisfaction or fulfillment, because from my perspective, whether or not the thing I completed turned out good or not, I completed something else, and it's there on the record books. Just think about it. It says, what is a goal of the self? My guess is a goal that we strive for is to fulfill ourselves. Okay, that means to say that you are fulfilled. Well, fulfilled means a couple of different things, but it could mean that some obligation has been met, it's been fulfilled. Or I think what you mean there is that in the absence of some effort by the self is not adequately full, which I'm not necessarily disputing, but I think it's an interesting underlying presumption of what I and a lot of other people sometimes say about self-development or actualization or whatever. Does TI or TE always have to manifest as an inner dialogue? TE certainly doesn't. TI probably. That's one of my fears, waste my life with nothing to show for it. But what if you get to the end and you have a bunch of stuff to show for it and you realize, I wasted my life getting all this stuff to show for it? You know? what about how much easier life is for women? I think that's what about how much easier is life for women? I'd say that's a question, and the answer is probably entirely dependent on the individual woman and the individual man being compared. I think life is hard for both sexes. Cis potatoes are life in different ways. I mean, I think there are men out there who can get screwed over by women and or feel as though there's an implicit unfairness in the way things are with women, and it causes them to get very angry about that and to direct that anger incorrectly towards women. But, you know, it's not going to serve them well. Ultimately, women comprise half of the people on the planet, and like any person on the planet, you get an individual when you deal with one. You didn't answer my question. What is the goal of the self? I thought it was a rhetorical question, and you were answering it yourself. I mean, it's the topic. What's the goal of the self? I don't have a pat answer for it. It's the topic of the whole live stream. I would say it's something along the lines of it's going to be. It depends on what you already are attending to successfully. So for me, my goals are going to link to balance and authenticity, SI and FI, because they're areas where I am lacking. And maybe a little bit of TE, maybe a little SE too, you know, maybe a lot of NI. But the thing is, the NI growth, it relates to what I'm making. I want my shit I'm making to be more NI resonant. I'd like the stuff I'm saying, the videos I make, to be more NI resonant. But it doesn't relate to myself, really. In terms of understanding the self as being more actualized or more optimal than a previous state of the self, I think the way for me is through my authentic feelings and through my introverted sensing. I don't think that's the way it is for everybody, though, because I think it really depends on where your functions are. I interpret and reinterpret myself thousands of times. No real grasp on my inner self. When I'm around others, I lose myself in that scene, for better or worse. So be careful whom I befriend. Don't we all? Isn't the real goal that dampens one's tenders? And that was the big finale, okay? That was what the final answer was going to be revealed at the end of the live stream. Now you blew the surprise. You think you have a personality disorder? Which one? Save the bees. The one that requires people to save bees? You got STBD, save the bees disorder. Just think about it. It says, oh, my bad. I thought you already had an idea what it was. So are these live streams about exploring the topic that is presented in the title? Well, yeah. I mean, if I just came on and said, okay, good news, guys. I got the answer. The goal of this up is okay, goodbye. It'll be a short live stream. It has been suggested I have BPP, but never officially diagnosed. Well, were you abused as a kid? That's going to be, if you weren't, then you don't. If you were, then you do. And that's basically, it's cut and dry. Diagnosing yourself is not a good rabbit hole to go down usually. Well, unless the rabbit at the bottom of the hole can write prescription drugs, then maybe. Why do you focus on the MBTI so much? Well, in this live stream, I began by talking about the goal of the self. And at some point, when asked to be more specific, I had to say, well, it really depends on how you habitually pay attention. The main reason why I focus on MBTI so much is that those videos get views, and it's what my audience expects. This channel is not an MBTI channel, at least formally, but it's become one because, like I said, that's where the audience is. And I've come to favor the understanding, the architecture of the rhetorical tool substantially, because it's a very effective way of parsing out what's otherwise an almost inscrutably complex web of mush.
I love you.
I grew up in an abusive home. I did see a therapist for a while, but I was too young to diagnose with. Well, then you probably are. The function.
Hallelujah.
It seems like a good starting point for many topics, at least when it relates to people. Everything does. Do you feel held down and like nailed down by your audience here? You are seen as the MVTI channel. If you want to go in other directions that may not be received well, is this annoying? Well, the good thing is, from the very beginning of the channel, I refuse to be, I guess, constrained or purposeful in that fashion. I still do and did and will continue to put up videos about various things that aren't MBTI related, but if I feel like making such a video. And some of them may not do well at all, but I'll continue putting them up anyway if I feel like it.
And you know why? Because we can.
The good news is YouTube doesn't really reward consistency. It rewards individual videos that pop. So your bad videos get buried and you don't suffer much from them, and your good videos get promoted. And so it's a very failure tolerant environment. Plus, the bulk of my core audience began getting a lot more variation of stuff than just MBTI. Now I'm more focused on trying to grow the channel, make it bigger, and being more successful and stuff. So no, I don't feel held down. I don't feel nailed down at all. The thing is, I do like the topic. It is a topic that affords you almost endless amount of ideational room to play around, and that's very conducive to me being happy talking about something. I'm gonna smoke this bong right now.
Hello, Sheila, my favorite friend on the internet. She has goats, she has chickens, she has maybe cows, I don't know. Probably a bunny. And lots of other pets that I want to go steal from her. I want to stalk her farm.
She's got a herd of porpoises in the backyard. Not a lot of farms have that. She sells fresh filleted porpoise flesh. Fresh filleted porpoise flesh, only $12.99 a pound. If you haven't tried porpoise yet, you are missing out. Boy, talk about a tasty marine mammal.
Since when you call me a porpoise?
I don't call you porpoise. I will type police's ass. He's also entered into the tournament. But I need to do another tournament video, and they take a lot of sort of prep and stuff, so I gotta get on that. But I've got all of March still to finish the tournament. So I'm glad I made it March Madness instead of February Madness. I've got plenty of time to do it.
Could very well be April Madness as well.
No, I didn't do type tips yet. I'm going to. I'll type police's ass, and he's going to be in the tournament. I'm pulling out Naked Painting Lady because she wanted out, and so that's
really?
good. Yeah.
Why?
Have you ever eaten a Smurf burger? The meat is hard to find because Smurfs are rare. The burger is blue and full of protein. Good for working out.
Painted Lady asked to get out?
What? Oh, yeah, she did.
You didn't tell me that.
She said she doesn't do MBTI channels anymore. She's just wants control. I think she is an INTJ, and she thinks she wants to control everything. Okay, well, I haven't had a Smurf burger. I've had an Azrael burger made out of, what's that guy's name? Gargamel? Gargamel's cat? It's hard to get fresh porpoise in Arizona? I bet. I'm thinking about stocking some of the lakes in Arizona with some freshwater porpoises, so you can do that. I'm liking the new thumb graphics you've been using for the last day or so. Oh, thanks. What have I been doing? Let's see. I've been playing around with thumbs more. You know, now that I've decided I'm going to make a thumb every time, I've started to get better at thumbs in terms of what seems eye-catching and what's too much text and a lot of other questions like that. So
I'm playing with thumbs too.
You are indeed. I liked the one with the two heads, my back of my head and the front of my head, and I thought that was a pretty funny thumbnail. What is a good video channel which discusses these functions 5 through 8 and how when we use them? I tried talking with famous people.
Yeah, me too.
Probably. Maybe Host Eric's channel, talking with famous people, would be another one. Jonas MC is an AFJ. We should all get signs and pick at his house.
Listener.
We should get some signs and go pick at Jonas Dempsey's house saying, NFJ. NFJ. You're not an IDJ. Yeah, well. I will say this. I actually like watching him. He's pretty smooth. He's pretty I enjoy his patter, and he's pleasant. I feel like I'm in safe FE hands. I'm sure there are other channels that talk about functions that I would agree with them and think that they're good channels and stuff. At the moment, I'm hesitant to endorse anybody else because I mean, I don't know if you guys have heard, but this is what they're known as the March to War. We haven't formally declared war yet, but I'm spending a lot more time putting on my Generalissimo hat as I meet with various officials and talk, meet with the ambassadors and stuff. It's hard to say. All right, let's see what else we got here. There's a channel called Mind Mastery, and she claims to be an INTJ. It's a good channel, deals with psychology quite a bit. I'd like to see if you believe she's really INTJ. She's made many INTJ videos. I will check it out. I go through phases of doubt and certainty regarding my type. Your recent videos about Jonah have stirred some of that doubt. Oh, well, what type do you think you are, Rowan? Hey, Eric. Having a hard time figuring out if my tool function is TI or NE. That can be a tricky one. But, I mean, the thing is, INTPs are typically a lot more introverted than ENTPs. They're not, depending on when you catch an ENTP, what day you catch them on, they might behave very similarly over the course of an afternoon or something. But if you look at them over the course of longer periods of time, ENTPs are much less introverted than INTPs.
Sit there with them, stare at them up and down, watch them, observe them up and down, sideways.
INTPs and INTJs are both quiet for different reasons. Those sort of thoughts have crossed my mind. Muckiagnus, but I don't think so. I don't think it's that constructed. I think he's chasing his NI around without any SI anchor points. He's got no sense of the fact that the differences can be caused by particular factors specific to the individuals. They don't have to be caused by some architecture. Let's see what else. Is it normal for INTPs to be quieter than INTJs? Yeah, they're both quiet. But I wouldn't say quieter. INTJs, they only say things when they have a good purpose to say them. INTPs are always too late to get off what they're wanting to say because the moment's passed and they've been thinking about it too much, whether that joke was going to work or not. And then it's too late. They don't say anything. That's a totally different kind of quiet. INTPs want to talk. INTJs find it necessary to talk occasionally. I was just about to type about how I think goals are unnecessary and kind of pointless, but as I was typing, I now don't think that anymore. Well, it takes a long time to complete a sentence, so that's understandable. You change your mind on something like that. I don't think goals are very... I mean, look, I think having general goals is necessary. Like, know what level of attainment you want to reach in general. But I don't like specific goals because they constrain me as an NE DOM from adjusting on the fly. Let's see. I think I got that one already. Top 3 types likely to be hermits. ISTJ, INTJ,
ISFJ,
INTP. I'd say those 3.
I'm not a hermit?
No, you're not.
Susie's a hermit?
A little bit. INTPs are quiet because they're thinking about concepts in their heads. INTJs are quiet because they're silently judging you. Well said, a human and her higher self. That's exactly right on the money. Aaron asks, or top 5. You might toss in ISFJ, I guess, but they're not a hermity, really. They have too many, because you got too many FE requirements. You do, like, you're a homebody, but that's not the same as a hermit. It's a nice anchor, a goal, but plans fall apart when met with reality, even great plans. And ISTJ told me this, actually, and I believe it's true. I do too.
I believe it
too. I've been the fall apart person on other people's plans many times, either to my detriment and dismay, or to my glee, depending on whether I needed to, fuck up their plans or not. I think my middle school brother is an ENFP. How can I be sure? Well, you could. I mean, you can't really be sure without. Look, because you're talking about a middle schooler. So when you're talking about a middle schooler, they're going to be, in some ways, easier to type than an adult, and in some ways, harder. They're not going to be very accurate about the value kind of stuff. If you go,
especially as a middle schooler,
right? If you go,
they don't know what they value.
Right? They don't. Yeah, exactly. But you will be able to determine NE and TI pretty easily. You'll be able to go, okay, first, here's a story starter. Now, make up some random nonsense about it, and depending on how much you use efficient water with that, then that's going to tell you a lot. But the TI, you'll be able to tell if he's polar or not by asking him a couple basic logic questions. And if you get that he's very good at the creative stuff, but very bad at the logic stuff, you get yourself an ENFP or an INFP, probably an ENFP. Okay. What exactly goes on in an INTP's head second by second? I would expect that it's very similar to what goes on in an ENTP's head second by second if they're both not talking. What goes on in my head second by second is like the other day I was driving around, I was thinking about this function rummy game idea that I had. Earlier today, I was driving to work and I was thinking the whole time about this analogy that I want to make a video about. It's a follow-up to the video I made about the 12 eggs. And I was just working on all the TI of it, really, or, coming up with thinking like, okay, so if I have 4 people there and so each of them is assigned a mathematical function, plus, minus, division, just sort of thinking through the whole thing. Now, for me, I spend a lot of time thinking about stuff that I'm thinking about because I plan eventually to make a video about it. Or the reason I'm thinking about it really is because I want to continue to make videos. And I mean, I don't know. It's just sort of, I don't know why. I don't know why I do things like that. That's a hard question. And you see how when I start getting into the FI angle of it, I just sort of trip and fall. Like I just can't explain it at all or something. Let's see. I realized today, says Sheila, I gather a ton of info on a topic, put it all in my head, and just let it sit there. Eventually, it just works itself out. I don't feel like I consciously think about things. Well, that's an NI approach to understanding. And as a knower, you're going to feel perfectly comfortable knowing first and uncomfortable when you don't. It's like I'm comfortable acting first and uncomfortable when I can't. What's the difference between a hermit and a homebody? They seem the same, both stay at home. Well, Kimberly's mostly a homebody, but she'll be engaged socially periodically, and she'll want to have parties at the house, and she'll want to go out to dinner, and she likes to do all these social events that are normal social events. She just doesn't like to spend her like disposable time on things that are out of the house for a very long time. And if I suggest we go do this or that or the other gun, she's always like, no, let's just stay home. Let's just stay right here. It's fine. Later, I might go to Target and stay there for 2 hours. I gotta put a bunch of things in my basket, take them back out again. It's gonna be fun. Ooh, that was exhausting. Better go back home. Let's see here. Sheila, that's exactly what I do too. Well, Joe, Shabadoo. I didn't get an answer to this when I posted it in the comments of a video, so I'll CP it here. Okay, cool. Is it typical for INFPs to think a lot about how others perceive them? Yeah, because, well, yeah, but they'd rather not think about it that much. I think about it considerably more, I'd say, than an INFP would. I'm unsure the difference between being capable of using TE to manage perceptions and using FE to do so. Is TE not capable of learning human motivations and social rules? Sure, just like my SI-TI is capable of learning TE heuristics, such as measure twice, cut once. But that's not actually TE. It's a workaround for TE. And so an ENTJ who's an interface type with TE in the dominant slot and FE in the 8th, will have a very TE-esque approach to FE in the fashion you're saying, but it won't look like real FE. It will always be serving the TE and not the other way around. And so there's that. And plus, it will be intermittent. It'll come up when he needs it, and then there will appear to be no FE for a while, or bad FE for a while. The thing is, it's because a TE DOM is, well, a TE is the interface function that allows you to tackle any thing with any logic to it and figure out the logic to it and work with it on its own logical terms. And that includes FE, but unlike a conscious FE user, it'll always be instrumental, and it'll always be in a small node. So it's like, I need to put on some FE to get you to let me sell your house. I'm a real estate agent. So I'm going to throw a little FE at you. It's instrumental to get that to happen. And they'll use it like that. You might say that when Kant made his moral imperative, never use another agent as a means to an end, he was condemning TE DOMs to hell forever. Okay, TI and INTP seem razor sharp as far as debates and arguments. I don't like them. They're impossible to beat. Oh, they're good. Is the difference between DOM TI and Tool TI mostly speed? I mean, I see it as power, not speed. Like, my TI is plenty fast. It's as long as it's parsing out shit that's at this level, you know. If I got to do deep parsing, it gets brain taxing for me, and it's hard lifting. Like thinking about the function rummy game, that required a lot of TI. I had to sort of process a lot of conditionality chains, and it tires me out after a little while. And I go, this is hard. INTPs don't do that. But on the other hand, INTPs INTJs and ENTPs are the best debaters. Those three types. And it's hard to say which one's the best. But I can tell you how INTPs beat ENTPs. They do it by debating like water, by being impossible to pin down on anything that has any impact, by successfully framing out of every possible turn and everything like that. They debate like water. They make limited claims that are defensible entirely, and they make limited attacks that are precision and designed to get the round one and not indulge too much in novelty, because they're using the novelty as a tool function. That's what makes them debate like water instead of a dominant nature. Now, ENTPs will win if they can out-NE the INTPs, which they often can because INTPs don't trust their NE enough. INTPs trust their TI too much. And so they're just not quite as quick on their feet. That's what it boils down to. And so the ENTPs have an advantage in that area. INTPs have an advantage because ENTPs can let it get away from them, for sure. We can let it get away from us, which means we let it get away from us in a couple of different ways. One, start ideating out something on the spot that's not purpose-driven enough in terms of tactical round mechanics, or two, just get too stuck on one part of the flow, arguing out all the possible rebuttals to it, and then not rebuttal the other things at all. Shit like that. Round mechanics stuff is an ENTP's bugaboo. INTJs, they probably are the best at the end, if I were gonna say that. But you could say the same thing for ENTPs and INTPs. The difference being INTJs don't get sloppy like ENTPs for sure do, and INTPs run the risk of doing. Once ENTPs and INTPs get really good, they go, I don't need to prep, I don't need to whatever. But INTJs never say that, and that's what makes them super dangerous. And of course, if you've been in the activity long, if you're an INTJ who's debated since you were in 7th grade or 6th grade or something, let's say by your 6th year of debate, your NI has had so many pieces of the puzzle to look at, and so many opportunities to work with the framing up and framing down aspects of debate, that it's almost impossible to catch an INTJ off guard. And the only way you beat them is by catching them off guard. The only people who can still catch them off guard potentially are ENTPs, and that's the epic David and Goliath, with the INTP standing somewhere in between them. Like, I mean, it's not that they're worse. INTPs aren't worse. It's just the contrast of styles between ENTP and INTJ. That's the epic debate round right there. That's the one that I'm most interested in watching. Of course, the ENTP will probably be more demonstrative or more gregarious, and just win more on. We'll get some FE points probably, but may push it too far and lose FE points. You never know. And it really boils down to, what does INTJ do with the squirrely shit that ENTP throws at them? And is ENTP clever enough to squirrel through what's a incredibly tightly built INTJ case? Let's see. Going back up a bit here. Well, it's just really moved along. Especially in mature adult with any interest in psychology, I expected to be sufficiently practiced in social interactions to be able to avoid acting like a complete dolt. Well, that's not necessarily the case. It depends what you consider a complete dolt. If you consider a sort of lack of awareness of FE adult, then lots of people do that. But if you require them to be actively awkward to be adult, then that's another question. Is there a difference between Dom TI and Dom? I answered that. Is Eric in sync with the chat? I'm in sync with the chat in my sleep all the time. I just ate too much sugar. Oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. I was hungry. It was there. Ooh. Target is a trap. Steals the bank account, says Sheila W. Product buyers and merchandise layout designers at Target are geniuses. I don't find Target particularly appealing. I just go in there and get the one thing I'm going to get.
Guy.
Drink lots of water if you want to go pee. Jeremiah, get in touch with me. Get in touch with your SI2. Eat some fruits. Come on, man, do. And he says, yes, sure, I will. Fruit is still sugar. Better sugar than high fructose crap, but still. Eat loads of geese, says Save the Bees. Save the Bees, not good advice. Do not tell people to eat loads of geese. Well, we all determine what's Jewish. You are just Jewish activists then. Christianity is something we all collect in the rivers. I'm not going to read your chats out loud anymore. We'll stream this. I'm always so jealous of people that are so quick with comebacks. My comebacks pop into my head 2 days later. So sad. Well, silence is often the best comeback. Half the time, that's a good thing. ISTP have SE, but seem to not care at all what others think about them. I know an ISTP wears ripped clothes, dirty clothes, doesn't comb his hair, etc. Why are they like this? Well, they have fourth slot in FE, so they're really TI heavy, which means they're not attending hardly at all to how people's perceptions are impacted by their dress or something like that. And even if they are to think about it, they're TI dom, so they go, well, that's not logically consistent with what my understanding of what people ought to be prioritizing here, which is actual competency. So, yeah. I have to smoke this bowl now. Let me use this. It's a good one. It worked well. Fruit give you beneficial sugar that benefits your body in various ways. Look into it. That sugar isn't harmful to your body. Hell no, it's called fruit sugar. It's actually salt. It's partially a pepper. Sheila, I was just talking about this exact subject with my mom today. I've gotten better at this as I age. Better at putting fruit in your body. It's not that hard, Joe Shabadoo. ISTPs do care, but they do not let on. They're laid-back parents. Yes, of course they care, as do INTPs, but it's a different kind of caring than third slot. So they're seeking it. It's very gratifying to them when they get FE. And we might misinterpret that to mean that they care a lot about it. They're very gratified by others taking care of it for them, giving them praise, and or just handling the social stuff in general. Because their fourth slot. It doesn't really mean that they care that much in the sense that they're not really paying very much attention to it. Like me and SI. I have a very warm spot in my heart for SI and everything, but it's because I don't care about it enough. Okay. How does SE polar and FI polar manifest? Well, SE polar manifests as a failure to get shit done, basically, and a failure to understand how important getting shit done is to the world. INTPs and INFPs not only don't get shit done, but they don't really understand what getting shit done means and why it matters. Of course, their hidden agenda is SI, which means, as far as they're concerned, their real attainment in life extends as far as them and their stuff, and that's about it. My stepdad makes arbitrary safety rules that seem based on singular personal experiences devoid of logic. What function is this? That's introverted sensing. Either with TE or FE. My mom would make arbitrary safety rules. My dad would make arbitrary safety rules, but much less often. and they probably wouldn't actually be arbitrary because the TE'd on. Well, my mom would be like, or Kimberly does this. And I've got a perfect example of an arbitrary safety rule based on a single personal experience. Like, why is it that we have to close this gate all the time? Why can't the chickens be in the driveway? Well, because that one time the chicken was attacked by a dog. But she wasn't attacked by a dog in the driveway. She was attacked by a dog in the backyard with both the gates closed. It didn't get to her from the driveway or whatever. It got to her from the neighbor's yard by pushing through a plank in the fence. So that's not a reasonable conclusion to draw from that. Well, too bad. That's the conclusion I'm drawing. Okay. The thing is, if you just listen to the person some of the time, you'll discover that they're right. Even though it was based on a single personal experience, it turned out it did represent an ongoing risk of some sort. And that the NI conclusion that this must be resolved now was absolutely falsified by the particulars of it. Regardless of whether it should have been fixed, this dangerous thing, by what we did, it actually isn't fixed. And there was another way it could get in. It's like, and it was sure as lucky we did have that fence there. Because I was telling Kim, like, this is ridiculous, Kim. Just because you saw a dog, just because we had a dog come in one time doesn't mean there's an ongoing problem that we need to prevent any more than we need to prevent a lightning strike if we get struck by lightning one time.
Happen again the next day with two separate.
And the next day, on two separate occasions, dogs come down the driveway. Out of nowhere, one off the other neighbor's house who came through a hole in their fence into the driveway, and then two little wiener dogs, actually, as Kim posited might happen, and I scoffed at, just walked down the driveway from out in the street for no reason. This was one of the justifications she gave for this. We need to put this little stupid fence here all the time. Well, Eric, dogs might wander into our yard from out in the street, might wander down our driveway. Kimberly, come on. Random dogs do not wander down our driveway willy-nilly. The very next day, I think it was. It may have been like 2 days later. Two separate incidents proved Kimberly right. Okay. After the two little wiener dogs walked in, I was just like, okay. I was not meant to win this argument. So, who knows? Go for it. I don't feel much ought with presentation anyway. Propriety would be whatever is emergently logical for my character as I woos. You're in timeout, bub. For your reducing individuals to groups by hating the groups, one can conclude that's what you're doing. When I Googled when did diabetes start, it said first known symptoms of the disease occurred in 1552 because lol. Of course, we all know the internet doesn't lie. France seems Muslim. All I know is diabetes is a huge problem now, more than it has ever been in the past. The goal itself is to pull over every mistyped human being and throw them in jail. Just think about it. That's the best chat you've ever made. Jupiter is greater than Saturn. It certainly is bigger. Rationalism is based on universal agreement on logic, and empiricism is based on universal agreement on experience. So what's the difference if they're both based on humans agreeing about it? Well, I mean, a real rationalist is both an empiricist and a logician. Where an empiricist where appropriate, and a logician where appropriate. Exact comprised as a totality rationalism. You might talk shit about, you might hear me talk shit about empirics a lot, but the fact is, what I'm working on right now with the first validating typology video, and there's going to be a second one coming up, is explaining which elements of it need a empirical link. And sure, there are definitely elements that do need an empirical link. And the thing about empirics that people don't seem to understand, though, is most empirics boil down to establishing a single fact. Like, do brain scans reveal that people have an ongoing, steady diffuse electrical field in the brain that is consistent over time? Or do brain scans reveal that different parts of the brain light up at different times depending on how one is paying attention? Well, the answer is the latter. Now, once that's been established, you can do a lot of empirics additionally to that to try to establish it further or try to be more detailed about it or whatever. But that's something that does help a lot to be established empirically when you're making the argumentation about it. But there are other kind of empirics that are just as valuable that aren't sciencey at all. Like, can we establish that it is both possible to know something already, the answer to it, and alternately possible to figure out the answer through a process of deliberation? We can know empirically that those things are possible through our experience and through every indication we have regarding the experience of others. So in that sense, we know empirically that it's so. But what we can't apply empirics to is some sort of linguistic understanding of those realities, because that's the meaning end of it. There are two ends of everything, right? There's the data end and the meaning end. Now, how we frame what counts as data is going to have a lot to do with what meaning it has for us, sure, but it doesn't mean there's still not a distinction to be made. There has to be two ends to it. Etc. I got distracted by Primal Fuckhead's comment. Primal Fuckhead's a bit of a loose cannon, bit of a live wire. I think he's gotten frustrated around here on occasion in the past. Do you think the movie Limitless is a good example of NI, except he's using it consciously? I'm not familiar with the movie Limitless. The chickens versus dogs story is tragically funny. My stepdad's latest thing is obsessing over my mom being careful when she gets out of bed with her arm cast, because you need two hands to get out of bed. It's true, Joey Shabadoo. It's true. You got to put your pants on one leg at a time, and you got to get out of bed one arm at a time. And the self. I had to kill that like the humanist talk about ego death. Huh. I don't know what that means. I'm going to go look more into it, because some things don't seem to make sense. About what? Contradictions. For sure, Gyro Lamb, you got me thinking now. What types would you say are the best at objective self-criticism? I would say TI tool users, probably even more so than TI DOMs. I've been reading your table and words books, but I have to keep the dictionary closed to look up your big words. I'm trying to stop that. You're getting schooled and loving it. Well, I really am trying to, as I'm in the things I'm writing now, I'm trying to use more simple words in general and stop trying to sound smart and stuff. I'm trying to actually be smart instead of sound smart. I mean, the thing is, I was saying smart things before, but I wasn't saying them smartly and making them unnecessarily verbose. And I'm still guilty of that to some extent. And sometimes it's not unnecessarily. It's just, well, again, it's heavier lifting, making complicated concepts into concise and effective language, NI resonant language, than it is to I mean, it's harder to do that than it is to just use a lot of words. You know, shorter is harder. The brain's circuitry is as intricate as one imagines. Is it? So egress while being true to my ethos. What does egress mean? Is that the opposite of regress? Shouldn't that just be gress or progress? FE tool users. Why are TI tool users better at objective self-criticism, though? I would say that it's because as a deliberation DOM, the INTP has a much closer relationship to the interested calculus, FI, than does the INTP. Where is Amber? Somewhere you can't get at her, okay? Okay, John Brooks, somewhere you can't get at her. Got her stashed away underneath my desk here. Amber, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Have a good time here. Okay, well, that's where you want to sit. I don't know why she wants to sit down there. She keeps tugging at my pants. Amber, stop. I'm trying to do a live stream here. You know that's not appropriate. You're supposed to be calling John Brooks about that kind of thing, not me. Anywho, the drones trying to rescue Amber. Well, I've exchanged messages with her, but she got a job not that long after we started doing shit, so she got much busier all of a sudden, and also, you know, she can get a little skittish about the realities of being a type policeman. No, I don't allow it. That's what I have this stick here for, is so that I can smack her with it when she gets too fresh. What function is the one that allows you to be steps ahead of someone, always knowing what people are going to do and say days before it plays out, knowing discrepancies in their pattern of behavior? I mean, it really depends. Kimberly's pretty good about reading that kind of stuff with specific individuals that she's focusing on. But you can see it's a brute force attack, kind of. Her NI does serve her SI, so when something links to her personally, then she can be quite prescient about how that person's going to behave and how something's going to play out. But generally speaking, I would say that's an NI thing. Me too. That's why I haven't had enough time to hate on your videos. I've been missing that. I've been like, everyone's so nice. Where's John Brooks? Tell me how much my video sucks. Your video sucks, old man. Sitting in your parents' basement. Crazy old man. It's like, it's weird the insults I get. I don't really get any original insults from people across the board usually. I get old man, I get crazy or homeless. I get parents' basement, which is odd because I'm so old. Why would I be in my parents' basement? For most people my age, my parents would be dead. The statistics are such that by the time you're 50 years old, your parents are probably dead. Well, especially if they had me. Well, given that my parents had me when they're 35, not necessarily everybody's parents, but I'm saying, given that your parents have you when they're 35 years old, there's a very good chance by the time you are 50 years old, they're going to be dead. I mean, my parents didn't even have a basement. And this house looks nothing like their house. Of course, people don't know what their house looks like, but if you look behind me, I mean, it's just I'm supposed to be the parent, right? I'm the parent. I'm not the one. I don't know. Whatever. I don't care about the old man, so it don't bother me. I mean, I am in general bothered by being older and having less time to finish my things I got going on. But I don't feel sensitive about it or anything. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up here, folks. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Have a pleasant evening. I'm tired, and I just feel like it's time to go in and eat some food and stuff. See ya later. Thanks for watching.